Hey y'all, it's Ali. Welcome to Little Hill Homestead. I am doing a kitchen day today, and one of the 17 things I'm trying to get done today is restock some of our spices from our giant spice rack. I'm running low on dehydrated onion, and I thought, well, I can bring you guys along. But usually, when I run my dehydrator, I have a 10 tray. I have actually another one down in the garage that we don't use as often, and then we have that small countertop one. When I run one of them, I like to put those bad boys to use and do as much as I can. So today I'm going to be showing you guys quite a few things that we're going to run through the dehydrator to restock for the winter months that are coming up. So, like I said, we try to do as many of our spices as we can ourselves. So think onion, think garlic, think mixes that include those like garlic salt. You can make your own really easily. Next year, we are going to be doing our own. We've done cayenne pepper in the past. That is our own cayenne pepper. Next year, we're going to do our own paprika from bell peppers that we grow. We just didn't get enough this year to do that. So we're hoping next year is the year. Anyways, it is the end of the season for our garden. And so I went and I pulled a couple weeks ago all of our basil. I just cut it way down at the root. I'm going to try to overwinter those in the greenhouse, but I can't do that with the leaves. They're going to freeze. So I cut them all off. I tied a string around the base of a big bunch of them. I posted a picture on our Facebook or Instagram about it. And I hung them in our laundry room. And a couple weeks later, which this just happened, I was able to harvest all the basil we're going to need probably for the next 2 years. You don't even have to heat it in the oven because if you do, it takes the flavor away. So I was able to run the leaves. So you just pull the leaves off the stems, otherwise it's really woody. And I just ran that through our food processor. And now I keep a little bottle of basil, but this is our own basil and it smells way better than what you would get from the grocery store. One of the things we've found is making our own spices. The flavors are a little more potent than when you buy it from, say, Sam's Club or Costco or the grocery store. So a couple of these we're going to be using in recipes, but some of them are just to restock our pantry. So let's get moving. I ran to Aldi this morning to get a lot of the ingredients for this because they are fairly inexpensive in comparison to a lot of the other local places we have to us. So the first thing that I'm going to show you guys how to make. What do I want to do first, you guys? Let's see. Let's start with, what is this? Chives. We'll start with our green onion. So we do chives in our ranch dressing mix. And they're really inexpensive. I got 3 packs from Aldi. I think they were 50 cents a pack. I just cut them really thin. I have one of these that came with my dehydrator. If you don't have trays, you can use parchment paper. That's what I'm using on all 9 of my other trays. So for green onion or chives, they're expensive, you guys. Like I was going to buy them because I didn't want to have to pull out the dehydrator and everything. And then I was like, what am I doing? It's going to cost me $1.50. And then I do save the ends and we grow them in our garden. So we have unlimited green onion, but we totally picked over our green onion. Plus we're moving our garden, so we needed a few more. So I trim them up. I'll show you. But I save the ends. I stick these in water, and then I reroot them when they start to grow. I have one actually go in the kitchen window. So for green onion, there's 2 ways to do it. You can use a pair of kitchen scissors and just go to town. I would recommend that if you have kids helping or if you're not a very fast, speedy chopper. I have not been able to do green onions in like your KitchenAid mixer, not your KitchenAid mixer, that wouldn't work at all. You know what I'm talking about, the thing that spins the blades. I haven't been able to do it in any of those. I can't get the words. I just use a knife. So I just go down the line and rough chop. They don't have to be perfect. These are going to shrink just slightly as they are dehydrating. These take maybe 8 to 10 hours. Sometimes I just let them run overnight while I'm sleeping so that we're good. But I just cut down and then again, I just save these ends. So I have a stack of those going over here. I'm just going to lift those straight onto our parchment paper and spread them out. That's how easy chives are. I'll give you times and temps in my description below. I'm running a bunch of stuff through my dehydrator, and I'm going to try to figure out the best temperature to do everything at because I don't want to have to run the dehydrator for 7 days. I have all these that I'm going to get through, but I'll do it after the video's over, so it's not 75 minutes. So I'm going to end up probably with 2 to 3 trays of green onion. That's how I do my green onion. You just dehydrate it when you're done. I would show you, but 100% out in our hutch. I just put them in a giant mason jar, and you can squish them way down. It doesn't affect it at all. And we use them, like I said, in our ranch mix. That's that one. The next thing we needed from our hutch, because we were out of, was celery. So I did half of this. This is washed really well, and I dried it, so it's good to go. Again, I just lined parchment paper on our sheets, and you just cut it and spread it out as thinly as you can so that they can still be touching, but you just don't want anything like stacked up or it won't dry. So for celery, literally all I do, this is another one, by the way, if you cut it lower, you can save it, put it in some water, and it'll regrow a celery. We don't need a lot of celery. I literally do this one time a year. I fill a jar, and it's enough for us to hold over the whole winter for all of our soups and stuff. We just don't use a lot of celery in our house. But anyways, I just do it about the size you would want in your soups when it gets rehydrated. It'll end up pretty close to that size when you rehydrate it. But I just go down the line, keep cutting. And right now is a great time to buy celery because with Thanksgiving and the holidays, they lower prices on those things. So stock up now. Dehydrate yourself some celery. You'll be good for the year. If you grow celery, cool. I don't want to waste the garden space to grow celery when it costs me, I think the celery was 75 cents for the whole thing. So 75 cents for the whole year, and I don't use the garden space. So like I was saying, I will finish that one off camera, but I just spread them out really nicely and loosely on the parchment paper. So I'll end up with two sheets with the one celery. The next thing we're going to do is onions. So you can do a couple variations with onions. I am using just a traditional brown onion. Sweet onions don't quite work the same as these would. This is just what I get, and they're dang cheap. So for onions, you got two options. So if you're going to use it for granulated or powdered onion, which is more like your traditional spice, I just sliced my onions, skins and everything. I took the root end off. So I take off the part where it grew. I just cut that off. Make sure they're good and clean on the outside. If it has dirt or anything, just peel that part off. But I just take these and spread them out. This would be for, like I was saying, granulated or powdered onion. You can use these in any mixes that you make too, like celery salt. Celery salt. You can't use the celery in the celery salt. I'm acting like that's stupid. It's not stupid. We're making celery. You could use it in celery salt. You would just run it through your food processor. That's the word of the thing earlier that I couldn't remember. So onions, I'm doing quite a bit of onions because the smell when you do onions and garlics it's pretty potent. So I don't like to have to do it very often. But there's our onions. I will just put them on a tray like that. Good to go. Let me show you now how I do diced onion. So for minced onion, I think is what they actually call it. What is it actually called? Yeah, for minced onion, if you are a person that buys minced onions and puts it into recipes, I have a jar up there. I literally go through probably every 2 years. I don't use a lot of minced onion. But for minced onion, I cut all the ends off and then I peel it. Take off the brown part so you just have the onion. If you want to save these and put them on your other tray with your regular onions, you totally can. I take my onion and I cut it in half so that I have 2 half onions. Complicated so far, right? This is my compost bowl, by the way. So I typically will take my onion and I will run the knife, through it just a couple times that way. Then I will lay it down. Boop. And I will run the knife a little finer through this way. If you want to run this through a food processor or something like that, you totally can. It's up to you. These do have a lot of water in them, so they're going to get smaller. So you don't need to go too fine, but you want to be fine enough that you don't have big chunks of onion. And then I just kind of run it the other way. For onion, if you're dehydrating it for minced onion or whatever I called it, what did I call it? Yeah, minced onion. If you're using it for minced onion, go ahead and throw a piece of parchment paper down on here and then just put your onion on the parchment paper and you're good to go for that guy. I'm going to move those to the side because I put my parchment paper away. Go figure. So I'm just going to move that to the side. But for our onions, I mean, it's really easy. Like I was saying, just spread them out, and you're good to go. I do have a couple onions over here that I haven't cut yet. I will get to those off camera. So it'll end up being, how big were those bags of onions? I think each bag of onion had like 6 onions in it maybe. And they were $2 at Aldi right now. So brown onions or yellow onions, that's the other thing. They're kind of the same though. Spanish onions, that's what some people call them. There you go. There's our onions. But like I was saying, you want to do this outside because the smell when you do dehydrated onions and garlics is pretty potent. You'll get to the point where you're like, dude, I don't want to smell that any time in my life soon because it's just overpowering. The next thing we're doing, oh, by the way, I haven't done garlic yet. I haven't done the garlic yet. Let me show you garlic. It's sitting right here in my face, and I said to start with it, and I didn't. So for garlic, I bought fresh peeled garlic. These are already peeled, ready to go garlic bags. You get them at Aldi. I do this because I have a lot going on today, and I didn't want to sit here and squash, although if I asked Shawn, he would sit here and do this for me for hours if I asked him to, but I didn't want to sit there and do that, so I did just buy pre-peeled garlic. If you want minced garlic, let me put some of these. I have a parchment paper lined, what is this called? The sheet for our dehydrator tray. It's a rack, whatever. I'm going to put some on just whole. These are going to be our powdered version. So we'll run those through our, why do I keep forgetting the name of that thing today? Goodness gracious. I'll run those through our food processor. If you're going to be doing, I should wipe the counter down, but all good. If you're going to be doing minced, you would just mince these up really fine. If you have like a garlic press, you could do it that way. I don't like it quite to be that fine, so I'm just going to go with a knife and cut them up into like what I would normally have. That's going to be too many though. What I would normally have for, do I need minced onion? Minced garlic? No. So I'm going to actually do all of these, but for garlic, you would just mince it up, and I'm going to put all these on here because I don't need any minced garlic currently. So these are all going to end up being granulated or powdered garlic. So our garlic is done. We're jamming, people. We're jamming. I just always figure, like, if you are doing like trays of stuff and running 10 trays, you may as well load them up. So the next thing I've got, we've done our onion, we've done our garlic. The last thing we have is mushrooms. So you guys have been asking me since the beginning of the channel, actually, for a beef bouillon substitute and like a powdered version. And dehydrating beef and mixing it up, blending it up, it was kind of funky. So we're not going that route, but you want like a savory feel in your beef broth. And so we figured out that mushrooms kind of have the same vibe. So for mushrooms, you take your big mushroom, you just slice them up kind of like thin little pieces. If you want to chop them or something like that, you can too. I have parchment lined on here and I just spread them out. Mushrooms have a lot of moisture in them, and so these will shrink down pretty good. So you can buy mushroom powder to do this as well if you prefer. It was about $20 a bag, and instead I'm using $2 box of mushrooms to make our mushrooms that we need for our recipe. So just keep going till you have all your mushrooms sliced, and those, I think those will end up taking 2 trays probably for all of our mushrooms. You can spread them pretty far out. These, you can kind of let them layer just a little bit with mushrooms because they do have like a weird shape. Some air can kind of still get through them. I have some fresh ones, and then I had a few in the fridge that I kind of needed to use up. They were at the end of their life, so I'm going to go ahead and throw those in. So that's our mushrooms. That will be the mushroom powder that we use in our beef bouillon. So I think I have everything for you guys. So what did we end up with? We're going to end up with 1 tray of garlic. That cost us $4. We're going to end up with a big jar, enough green onion for us for our chives, for our ranch dressing for the year. That cost me $1.50. Our celery was 75 cents. And again, I will end up with 2 trays of it, and that's enough for us for the year for our soups and stuff like that. But if you're running it and you use a lot more celery, go crazy. We'll end up with like 3 or 4 trays. I'll see what I have left after I process everything else of onions. That was the one thing I was really out of. I needed to get done, that and garlic. And then we'll end up with 1 or 2 trays of mushrooms. So I am going to go get these all layered into my dehydrator outside. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, so it's kind of a nice day because I'm not going to open the windows or anything like that. It's just going to keep it outside. You guys, I'm telling you now, you can do it in the house. Your family won't like you. So I'm going to go finish processing the rest of my vegetables, and I'm going to get them in my dehydrator, and then I'll show you what they look like once they're in there, and temperature and time and all that stuff to come. All right, guys, I'm outside. I have my dehydrator like packed. This is my Kasori 10 tray. I like to use this one. I'm going to do a bunch. So I have it set at 135 degrees. If you guys have like the circle one that just stacks, you just turn it on. It's already kind of set at a good temperature for you. But 125 to 135 is kind of where you want to be. I'm just going to come out here. Some of these will take like 4 to 6 hours, and some will take longer. So what I do is I just keep coming outside every, I don't know, 2 to 4 hours, and I check on them. Some of them I'll just let run overnight if we're still working on that tonight, but we'll just keep checking on them. So we'll be back to check on those in a few hours. Hey y'all, I totally forgot that my dehydrator was even running last night, and so I never checked on it. So let's check on her. Should we? Shall we? Let me start at the bottom. These were our celery. Totally dry. I will just put those straight into a jar. 2 trays of those. These are our garlic. Okay, the garlic are still somewhat moist. Some of them are still moist, so we're gonna let those continue on. Mushrooms, oh, they're totally dry. So those I will make into a powder, but I'll show you that in another video. Green onions or chives, those are done. I expected those to be done. Onions. Oh, did you hear it? Our onions are done. I have 3 trays, so I'll just go through and make sure that no like ones that got layered together are in your face. Like this one's still wet, so I'll let it run just a little bit longer. And then our chives are actually so done they changed color a little bit. Sorry, my camera skills are mad today. So my onions are done pretty much. There's a few that are little stragglers, but for the most part, I forgot there's a whole nother tray of onions stuck up at the top that I'm totally missing. Anyways, most of them are done. Our garlic, I should have cut it, and I know that I should have cut it into little smaller pieces so that it would dry a little bit faster, but oops, my bad. Anyways, I'm gonna get these jarred up into jars, and I'll show you what I do with the ones that I need to powder. I'll be back once I get it in the kitchen, but first I have to go run a couple errands because I'm decorating my house for the holidays already, even though it's like the 15th of November. Our kids are coming into town for Thanksgiving, and we won't see them at Christmas, so we're gonna decorate the house a little early, so that when they come down for Thanksgiving, we have Christmas already set up. They don't know that though. But anyways, I'm gonna go pick up a couple things that, our lights never worked. Like we have a lot of garlands in our house, and I got them turned on, and only one of our 7 strings works. Like, what the heck? They're not that old. So I feel like this is an every year thing though. So I'm gonna go buy a couple strands of lights to get our house all pretty for the holidays, and then I'll be back to show you what we do with that stuff. All right, I got back from running my errands, and I started to process the stuff from our dehydrator. So the first thing I did was fill our jar with chives. It made 3 bunches, made 1 jar. This was empty. The other thing I did was celery. I put that in a jar. This is that whole bunch. It barely, I mean, come on. When I use the celery, I just kind of guesstimate. I throw a handful in. Think when it's wet, it'll get a whole lot puffier and do its thing. The next thing I need to process is the mushrooms, Let me show you. The mushrooms ended up getting crispy. Do you hear it? It's like a chip. These ones did take about 24 hours, but again, I forgot that it was running outside, and I kind of let it do its thing. So I'm just going to put these into a blender. You can use a food processor as well. My blender is a little more powerful. My food processor kind of stinks. So I just put them in here, and then I'm just going to let them go. Okay, it took 11 seconds, you guys. Not too shabby, right? I just get a little jar. I'm hoping you can see. I use my canning funnel anytime I'm doing my spices, just because I keep everything in jars, so it's much easier. The powder on this does come out the top, as you can see. So I just kind of shake it back down into there. So you can leave it whole, by the way. If you find a good deal on mushrooms, dehydrate them and you can add them to soups and stuff like that, or any of your, you can rehydrate them just with some warm water. You'll be amazed when we make the beef bouillon. I'll have that in a video in a couple days. But when we make that, this comes across as very savory. So it's a great replacement for beef. That's kind of where that all is supposed to go. There's our mushroom powder. Isn't that crazy? Don't spend $20, you guys. This will make a couple recipes of our beef bouillon with what we've got out of our $2 bag of mushrooms, box of mushrooms, whatever you call it. So I'll have to find a lid. But it made that much with one little thing of mushrooms. That's not too shabby. And it wasn't the big box like the Costco box. These are just the portobellos from Aldi, just a smaller jar. I'm going to go wash this down and get it really cleaned out. And then I'm going to show you how to process our onions. So I'm going to go do that. Be right back. We're on to our onions, you guys. So I got this good and clean, and you want to make sure it's really, really dry. I got a lid on our mushroom powder, so it is good to go. The next thing we're going to process are onions. Let me use this one since it's really so much easier to get them in with parchment paper than it is off those sheets. Which, by the way, you guys know we love when you guys send us stuff. Some of you guys come up with crazy ideas, which is fun. But Susan, thank you so much for the parchment paper. We literally opened our last container, and I was like, oh, we're going to have to pick up some parchment paper this weekend when we go to Costco. And boom, it showed up on our doorstep. So thank you. I know it's something so small, but when you cook as much as we do, especially for the videos like we do, even something that little is amazing. So thank you. Anyways, back to the onions, y'all. So we just put our onions in there and you literally just let them whirl. I know you guys love my blender. Seconds, you guys. That's how fast that was. Now, if you want granulated versus powdered, you would just blend it a little bit more. Mine is going to be more like a powder. Whoops, my bad. But there you guys go. Do you see it? Yeah. So that was just one of our little trays. Again, we get our little container, and let me just, I'll get the rest of it. In the last batch, I'll make sure that's good and cleaned out. But my only pet peeve with this blender is it doesn't quite line up like I feel like it should. Easier than it should. So I'm going to go process all of my onions. Same way, just keep blending away. If you like the consistency, here's what my consistency ended up being. It's just powder, you guys. If you want it coarser, just don't blend it as long. There you guys go. I'll be right back to do the next thing. Okay, so this is what we ended up with for our granulated onion. I have granulated onion written on here. It's more like a onion powder, but it has a little bit of, it'll clump a tiny bit, but when you put it in your recipes, it unclumps. So this actually will live on our spice rack. That's the reason I did this whole video, is because I ran out of this one thing. Great. So our garlic is taking its sweet time. It's not done yet. So I went in and I kind of broke up some of the bigger ones that were not drying correctly. Next time I need to break them up. And I knew that going into it, but I was being lazy. Don't be lazy. Just take a second, break your pieces apart. It would have been done by now. But I think it'll probably take another 12 hours. So I'll check on it probably first thing tomorrow morning. Just let it run all night because I'm over it. I don't like drama queens in my life, and the garlic's being a little dramatic. So we'll just leave her outside. She can have a timeout. So that's the only thing still going in the dehydrator at this point. But basically what you do is when the garlic is done, you run it through the blender that's not over here. You run it through the blender the same way you did all of our other spices, and put it in a jar when you're done. That's it. Then you have granulated or garlic powder. Then you can use any of these in any of your other recipes, maybe your spice mixes. Like I was saying, we're going to do a bouillon powder with the mushroom, and some of it's just, because I needed stuff in my cabinet for winter stews and soups and stuff. So if the granulated or if the garlic decides to dry out and be nice, I will blend it and show you guys that part. If it's like 24 hours later and she's still being a diva with her high heels and her glittery skirt outside, thinking she's sassy, well then I probably won't include that in this video. But basically, we'll let her sit outside for another 4 days. I don't care. Just, she's just running outside. It's fine. But don't be dramatic, right? What am I being right now? Dramatic. Stop being dramatic, y'all. Okay, that is how we make our own spices, you guys. Stay tuned because we're going to be doing that beef bouillon. I'm going to have a onion soup mix dupe for you guys. And we're going to be doing a cream of anything soup mix that's dry for you guys as well. So we got a couple good videos coming up that I think will help you with your Thanksgiving and holiday appetizers or cooking. So be on the lookout for those. We should have those up early next week, mid next week. I don't know. They'll be up sometime soon. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, you guys. As always, we appreciate you. And again, thank you, Susan, so much for the parchment paper and the sheets. We're going to put them to good use in our little kitchen. So thanks so much. Bye, guys.